Hey, everybody. Hope you guys had a great week. Welcome back to another episode of Carnage Unleashed. How's everybody doing?
Fantastic.
Doing great, man. Staying warm up here. It's getting cold up here in BG. You guys all know this. There is nothing to block the wind. It's getting brutal. I'm not gonna lie. It's getting brutal. But regardless, first pay-per-view in 6 weeks is this weekend. Any weekend there's a pay-per-view, it's gonna be a good weekend for sure.
Oh,
for
absolutely.
sure.
Always. I'm excited for it.
Kev, how you doing?
Oh, it's going to be a great one. I'm looking forward to. It's been a busy week. Got a lot to look forward to with UFC 311, and then of course, I've been keeping up to date with all that's been going on in the squared circle. Got a lot going on in the wrestling corner of the world too. So I'm ready. I'm fired up, gang. Plus, I got a new color scheme with the lights. I'm here for it, Wade.
I see. Well, I'm looking forward to that wrestling minute because you're my wrestling info person.
I got you.
But, I don't know if you guys have seen, but recent news with the PFL. PFL announced that Bellator is going to be dead. What are your thoughts on that, Zach?
I just want to know how they're going to set up the system now, because I've heard that they're going to be moving. They're actually going to crown champions finally. So it's not just going to be the playoffs kind of that they've gotten, or the bracket system that they do, which I like, because obviously I like that because Carnage Fight Series has done those in their kickboxing. So, obviously I like that. But I guess the question is how are they going to restructure it? Like, what's going to be that structure that they're going to do? And is it going to be competitive with the UFC? That's going to be the main thing.
Yeah. So I was looking at one of the articles ESPN, somebody wrote on there, was saying that they're getting rid of like their season and playoffs. So I haven't watched a whole lot of PFL, but
You're about to.
Yeah. So I did like their uniqueness where they did like this season where you had like leaderboards, you earned points as you went, and then you went into the playoffs with a tournament to win the title. That was pretty cool. It was unique. And they had some pretty cool like ref cam view glasses. That was pretty cool. But then they recently acquired Bellator. So then Bellator and them had like that champions versus champions back in 24. So I was wondering how they're going to go forward with it. So it seems like they're just going to absorb it and then just operate under PFL and make that the number 2 promotion.
How would you restructure it though? Like how would you build it?
So the way it says, it's like going to a single elimination matchup rather than the season playoffs. So they have like 8 weight classes consisting of 8 fighters each. Will run April through August. So it sounds like they're just doing like a straight up tournament, single elimination now.
So that's how they're going to crown their champion, and then like you're the champion, and then what you stay up to the top, and then someone's got to fight their way through to get to you to challenge you.
That's my understanding, which is kind of cool.
I like that
advantage, dude.
Yeah,
biggest.
Well,
holy cow.
Yeah, there's going to be a break in between, obviously.
Yeah.
Well, but how long is the break? Because otherwise, you're not doing these tournaments every year, right? Like you can't. If somebody's got to win 4 fights to get to a title fight, how much time? And meanwhile, the champion's just sitting there,
maybe
polishing his belt. Like that. I'm not against it. You want to be the man, you got to beat the man. But there could be.
I think that is the idea. They want people to fight. You have to essentially, if you're not the champ, you have to win 4 times in a year. Mm-hmm. That's a lot.
That is. But somebody's going to do it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh, for sure.
Some dude from Dagestan that we haven't heard of yet.
I personally, I think you separate it a little bit. If it was me, I would separate it. So you've got your championship fight right? Your belt fight is separate, because then what you do is with the not the playoffs, the bracket.
Playoffs.
I'm talking about playoffs.
Old habit.
When you get in the brackets, you can do a tournament style, but you do that with your under guys. That's how you help develop them. I feel like that's where you do it. You develop your guys that way, and you do it through that. And it's like, because that's how you're going to find your stars. People who can just go through the bracket real quick, depending if they're knocking them out or they're going through and just submitting them real quick, or they're just straight just dominating them. You know what I mean? They're like a Khabib. They just smother and dominate them. Whatever it is, the case that they do, you're going to be able to weed them out real quick and send them up to the bigger leagues of the bigger fights. That's making more money. That's your top tier pay-per-view events, while your brackets, your tournaments are going to be more of your free stuff, your cheaper stuff that you're going to have. You're going to put it on, YouTube or OnlyFans or whatever it is that you want to stream to. Hey, they've got fights on
I know
OnlyFans.
fans.
I'm guilty of it. I've watched free fights on OnlyFans. Okay.
So, yeah, that's why you were there, man. Yep.
I'm sure that's how you found out about the fights. Yeah.
Yep. It was Cage Fury, guys. I promise. That's why I put my credit card in there.
Hey, I had teammates that were fighting on that card. All right. And I got to watch them on OnlyFans. All right. Yeah. I'm guilty.
Well, shout out to Drake out there watching live. And this kind of, you may have just answered the question, Zach. He says, how do you guys feel about the merger? Do you think it will put out a better product with the tournament setting? So
I'm hoping.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so, definitely.
My biggest dig, and again, this is kind of getting nitpicky. I have two digs, I guess. Number one, they announced PFL traditionally has $1 million prize at the end of the year, right? Like that's what you're fighting for, essentially. Mm-hmm. They announced 2 days ago, I think, that they're knocking it down to $500K. They're adding weight classes, but they're knocking down the championship payout.
What all weight classes are they adding? Like, are they at
I think they're going lighter, maybe is what they're doing. I think
like do they not have a straw weight for? Do they have a straw weight for men, or are they going to straw weight for men?
No, I don't think they had bantamweight and flyweight. I think that's what they're doing. Because I think they were only 45. It would have been 45, 55, 70, 85, 205. Yeah, because I think they had 6 divisions.
Yeah, because they're adding two more, so it's going to be 8 weight classes now. So that makes sense.
Could you imagine a strawweight in men's though? Do you know how scrappy those guys would be?
Dude, that'd be like Lino getting back in there.
Lino would go and do that. Yeah,
those guys like
I feel bad for those dudes.
I am also guilty of like dinging flyweights from time to time. Yeah, they're not in there finishing people, but those are about as athletic of individuals as you will see in the sport.
You're going to see a quick pace fight.
Yep. Yeah. High output, just going, ting, 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 ting. You're like, dude, do they even breathe?
They don't get tired. It is that simple. They don't get tired.
Yeah.
And then my only other dig, and I'm curious to see how this plays out. If you lose, are you just done fighting for the year? Like, how else are you supposed to make money?
That was the other part. And how do you get the tournament reloaded for next year, right? Because first of all, you're either going to have a very small talent pool at each weight, at each division, right? Because how big can these tournaments be if the goal is, if we're saying 4 fights, what's that, like 16 people per division?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do we
8 per division?
8 per division. Okay.
That's
so
better.
How do we establish getting the next run of people? Like once you're in the tournament, if you lose your first round match, do you get regulated like it's soccer in Europe or something? And then next year you've got to hit a certain threshold to be eligible when there's only 8 spots for that tournament. That's my big question is, what do you do? Because we've dealt with tournaments, right? Guys, we've tried to do tournaments where you have multiple rounds in the same night. A lot of shit can happen. So how are you going to fill a card? Is it just going to be one tournament bout per weight class and that's your card? And then the next leg of round 1 is the next event? Like, how do you fill this whole thing out and have a product beyond April to August?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering too. Because like, if you lose, or is it they're fighting to get seeded in this tournament?
Right. Is
beforehand?
There's not a loser's bracket. It's single elimination. So do you fill like the early prelims with like guys that lost, I guess? That would be like logically that makes the most sense to me if you're trying to round out a show, right?
Yeah.
Because like you can't, and I will say the PFL's a little bit more lenient with their guys going to box. We've seen that with Francis Ngannou. Maybe they let him go box to make some money because let's be, I don't really think it's any secret, the combat sports community, that's where the money's at.
Yeah.
But like still, imagine you're a jiu-jitsu guy, you lose a brutal split decision in the first round. Now what are you supposed to do? Like,
how do you make money? How do you live?
Yeah, how do you make money?
You could be out of a job for a year, theoretically.
And so either there, and it's not like there's a ton of competition to run to, right? Like you could say theoretically, like, well, maybe they'll open up their contracts and let them go fight on other promotions. But at that, that's going to be really risky for them at that point, because then a guy goes and gets hurt on some local or regional scene, and now you've watered down your own product. So the PFL likely isn't going to want these guys going anywhere else. So how do you keep them paid? How do you keep them fed? It's gonna be very interesting. I think at face value, I love the tournament idea. I love whenever we can do things differently, take it from a different angle. Like the Wade was talking about with the point system, that intrigues me. I like that. I like the idea of a regular season. You accumulate points based on outcomes, and then there's some kind of tournament. But I think they have a lot of work ahead of them to figure out a way that is sustainable. Otherwise, you're just going to have the same 8 guys or gal, 8 guys per division, and then they're going to run it back year after year. Like, how do you even have guys ready to replace them and stuff? So there's a lot of questions to be answered, but I, for one, will be tuned in to see how they fix it.
Oh. Yeah. The thing that I do like, though, since they acquired Bellator, there's going to be an influx of, I think, higher level competition there now. I always thought PFL was kind of lacking compared to like Bellator and UFC. And now that they acquired Bellator, I think they can acquire that higher level fighter. Not to say they weren't exciting fights, because I watched some good fights in the PFL. But yeah, I'm eager to see how they can grow into that number 2 spot.
Another interesting note. So in the past, because of like the tournament format, like playoff style they've done, PFL hasn't allowed elbows, and now they're going to do elbows this year.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So it's interesting. If a guy gets like split down his forehead, like you got like probably realistically 2 to 3 months to figure it out.
There's going to be some logistics to figure out.
Yeah. There's going to be some delayed cards potentially. I don't know. They're going to have to figure some things out.
Because I'm sure that's why they didn't want to do that, right? They don't want guys getting opened up with an elbow. But now they're letting them do that. I assume it's probably to make the product more exciting. That's my best guess.
I think they'll do away with the tournament stuff, or they'll keep it. Like I said before, I think they'll keep everything. I think they're going to start making 2 kind of different things. Like I really do think that's what they're going to have to go to, since they're going to be crowning individual people. I personally, that's the only way that makes sense. Like, like you're talking about, like, how are you going to keep these guys going if they're out of the tournament? Well, the only way to do that is if you have a whole separate, where you've got separate cards. You've got the tournament going on as one thing, and then you're going to have separate cards on the other. When their guys are out, you're going to match the people who are out in those cards. That's how you're going to keep these guys going and fighting. That's the only logical way, at least right now, without really thinking too deep into it. That's the only way that they're going to be able to sustain that and keep their fighters fighting. Because I know one of the problems were the fighters were saying that they weren't fighting enough at PFL.
Yeah,
and so
especially
that's
the
how you fix
Bellator
that.
guys.
Yeah, and so that's how you're going to fix that. Is you're going to have to put on regular cards, regular super pay-per-views for PFL, and then you're going to have a regular card be your tournament. Plain and simple. I think that's the only way you're going to be able to make money and sustain and keep your. That's the best way to keep your customers and your fighters happy.
Yes.
Great.
Yes. Not everybody's Connor. Like, you got to fight. you got to fight.
Yep.
Part of me wonders, fellas, if they didn't pick the wrong name, though. I think for my money, for brand recognition, I might have stuck with the Bellator name and sent PFL would have been the one. Maybe I retired, but it's just you've heard the name Bellator for a lot longer. So
Yeah.
just as far as like trying to attract a new audience, that one might have been more recognizable. So I wonder, I'm sure they will survive it and be fine, but I just found that one kind of interesting too. When you
It'll
think
take a
of,
minute.
it's like, wow, yeah, it's interesting. Bellator is the one that's dead, you know, and like
Mhm.
the PFL is the big dog. There was a time if you'd have told me that, I might have chuckled. Drake says, "Oh God, now we'll have 2 fighting promotions with $75 pay-per-view."
Dude, like,
Not yet. Give it 5 years.
yeah, seriously. The one PFL Bellator show they did, I think, was 40, maybe. That's what the UFC card should be.
Yeah,
However, that's neither here nor there. And the funny thing about that show was they did 4 or 5 Bellator versus PFL championship fights, and Bellator won 4 of them.
yeah.
The only one that they lost was their 41-year-old heavyweight champion got knocked out by some dude who's like 23. Like, what are we doing here? So that I'm very curious to see what the landscape's going to look like, because generally speaking, just in business in general, competition is good, right? That forces other people to make their product better.
Mhm.
And we just lost, I would argue, the UFC's biggest competitor since Strikeforce, since they bought out Strikeforce.
Yep.
So I'm very curious to see what'll happen. Let's give it 5 years and see how happy, sad, angry, irritated everybody is during that time. I'm curious.
Yeah, for sure. But we had gonna move on to the UFC. They had their first card of the week or of the year last week. UFC Fight Night, Dern versus Ribas 2. Did you guys like that card?
I did.
Yeah,
I did. There
the
were a
main
lot
card
of
had no decisions, which was the best part.
Real snooze fest, right? A bunch of
seriously, guys getting flatlined.
Yeah, just a bunch of laying on the mat, you know, real boring stuff. Wasn't it?
But gentlemen, we all I think owe Mackenzie Dern an apology.
Yeah.
You know, I think as a team, I think we kind of butchered that one. Ribas got down there, like was grappling with her, and I was like, dude, that's
a bold move. Why would you take her down?
That's not a good idea. If Mackenzie Dern can figure out her stand-up, she'll be the strawweight champion at some point.
I agree with that.
That will happen.
She's got an excellent ground game.
Yeah, she's flawless on the ground almost. Yeah. But like, you can't. That's like trying to take down Khabib. No, bad. Don't do that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Drake, absolutely. That 4 seconds to go in round 3. I think she's probably still a fight away from a title fight. I'd like to see her get one more win, but she's 31, so she has some time still. And I think that realistically, within the next maybe year, maybe in late 2025, I could see her getting a title shot.
Yeah.
Depends on how quick she gets back in there and takes another fight.
Yep.
She takes out another top contender, especially somebody in that top 5. Could be.
Absolutely. Yeah. Another big story. Gentlemen, did you all see how Chris Curtis got knocked out?
Yes, 1 second left.
Yeah, I was not a fan of that.
Yeah, he stopped it. There was no danger. Like, he could have just let it go.
It's not like there's 2 ways to look at it, right? Zach, you go first, because I think I know which one you're going to say.
I don't know how I understand from a referee's point of view of why he stopped it. Okay. Yeah. And I understand the ref doesn't realize how much time is left on the clock either. His job is to protect the fighter. You know, that is his job. I get it. I understand it. As a fighter, I hate it because in my opinion, I thought he might have won that fight. He might have, right? But we'll never know because it never went to the decision that I think it deserved to go to. I really do think that it deserved to go all the way. And I mean, yeah, he caught him with that, was the head kick right there at the end.
Right at the end.
And he walked away. And he claims that he walked away because he was like, oh, well, I wasn't going to keep on hurting my opponent when he was already finished. And it's like,
that's a first.
Yeah.
You see that all the time in the fight game. Yeah, just we'll let the ref call that. No, it's like half the time you got to get peeled off. You're coming in with the hammer.
Cost Jalen Turner $300,000 at UFC 300 walking away. Like,
don't do that.
Bad. Not worth it, guys.
But yeah, I didn't. I understand the call. Didn't like it.
I get that for sure. The only reason, and I heard John Anik talking about this earlier this week. Chris Curtis had been getting rocked in the third round. Like, that was not the first time that he'd been caught with a big shot. He never got knocked down, but he was getting tagged. And like you said, the ref probably didn't realize how much time was left realistically. Because, like, think if there was a minute left and Kropolov is walking backwards, you're not jumping in there, right? That's obviously completely theoretical, but that's how I would interpret that. But I see both sides. I do kind of wish he would have let it go. Like,
yeah, I understand it. Why? Yes, I agree with you. The ref's there to be in the best interest, the best health for the fighters they're competing. But he was rocked. He went down to all fours, but he was coming up. He didn't give him a chance to try to defend himself. It wasn't like he was KO'd, eyes rolled back, and he was just like, He had a chance to bob and weave that couple of seconds. Obviously, the ref doesn't know, but you could have gave him an opportunity to try to bob and weave and protect himself. Because, like he said, like Curtis said in that game, right after he got stopped, that was his first knockdown.
Yeah, that was the first time he got knocked down
of his career.
Yeah,
it's just, yep. You hate to see it. You hate to see it.
Right. It's real tough because every time I'm in the booth, number one thing for me, fighter safety, right? I almost feel like a hypocrite in this moment because I am also on the side of, come on, 1 second. And we all, not all of us have been inside that octagon, or at least not while somebody else is trying to beat us up. I think we've all been in there a time or two at this point. But even from our front row seat, those clicks, that 10-second click is very loud. All right. So it's on the one hand, it's like you knew it was the end. I don't know. I tend to agree with where you guys are, where it's like the fan in me really wanted to see that one go to the decision. But I guess I'm just going to have to stay in my fighter safety lane, and I'll be the one to say, all right, fine. You know what? We'd rather everybody be safe, but that one is tough. That's a tough one to swallow. Just from a fan's perspective, I couldn't imagine being in Curtis's position. Like, dude, really? 1 second? And to kind
of piggyback off that, Kev, I think I can honestly say I would rather see a stoppage like that than see something like what Jalen Turner had to do to Bobby Green. Like, you know what I mean? I would rather see a fight get called early than a fight get called too late.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah, I've seen some crazy stoppages where
you're
dude is clearly out and they're just hitting. I've seen them stop and be like,
yeah, they'll turn and be like,
are you gonna step in? What are you doing?
Yeah, the dude will have two hands.
Keep going.
His fingers will be all curled up. Where it's just like, dude, what? Stop this! Stop the
scary
fight.
ones are the guy that's in a rear naked choke or something, and he's clearly
goes
out.
limp and he's out for 3 or 4 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you don't want that. You don't.
Ooh, definitely would rather see that than that, but still hurts every time, especially when somebody that you like watching and says such a career, never been knocked down, that was his first one. Yeah, it does suck.
Stings.
Yeah, it's hard to practice. I guess Zach, confirm this for me. You guys don't practice getting knocked out much in your fight.
No, we don't.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
Not normally, at least.
Yeah, you might want to add that.
I would hope not,
Sounds like
yeah.
some folks might want to add that. You never know.
The only other big fight that I really thought, like, damn, Cesar Almeida.
Yeah,
Yes.
I was about to say that just because I thought it was going to go the other way, and then all of a sudden, whack,
Yep.
whack. Because there's that power they were talking about.
Yeah, that, like, this guy beat Alex Pereira in kickboxing. Like, he knows what he's doing up there.
Yeah.
Like, you can't.
He was getting, in my opinion, he was getting beat though. I mean, he was getting
absolutely.
beat, and then he was stumbling himself, and then he came in and he didn't have his guard up while he was trying to finish him. And a lot of fighters make that mistake is they go in there and they just have that kill instinct. I'm going to kill him. It's like, no, you still need to be tactical. This is when they're most dangerous right now because they've got nothing to lose. They're going to throw anything and everything at you from crazy angles that you're not going to see coming, that you're not used to and you're not trained to normally get. So you got to go in there and be very strategic when you're trying to knock out somebody, especially with that kind of knockout power.
Cesar Almeida got knocked down too. Like that was not a foregone conclusion by any means.
That was like a crazy 30-second window there. Like he got rocked, got knocked down, got up, still wobbling, and then left hook.
Boom.
Knocked
all she
out.
wrote. Then the only other big fight, in my opinion, last one. It was actually the first one because I was sitting there. It was before I was leaving to go work. And I was like, you know what? I'll throw $5 down against Joe Solecki because Joe Solecki took this fight on short notice. And in the first round, Joe Solecki threw up a triangle. And I was like, no, there's no chance I'm losing my first bet of the year to a dude that took a short notice fight against an undefeated guy from Tajikistan, something like that.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
If he's from a stan, that's probably a safe bet. You're probably fine. But he threw that up, and I was like, dude, I'm going to lose my mind if that ends up happening. But it didn't. He ended up shaking him off.
Luckily for you, you got that decision.
Ended up shaking him off. We were fine. It was fine.
Yeah, you had to wait to the decision, but
Yeah.
But I mean, and kind of like then too, kind of last one, Dern and Ribas, why wouldn't she stand? I mean, that's what I want to know. Like, why go to the ground and try to, like, you had a perfect plan the last time you fought. You stood, you kept your distance. You whenever she came in, you'd counter. You did a perfect job standing and banging. Why? Because you want to completely dominate her. Is that the only reason why you do that? Is it an ego thing? Personally, I'm more egotistical. I want to win. I don't care how I win. I'm going to win my way. I'm not going to try to dominate you and go down and play in your area. Like if I'm fighting Wade, I'm not going to try to take it to the ground. He's a wrestler. He's going to school me in it. I'm going to use my range, and I'm going to hit him with the jab every time he tries to get near me. Stay away.
Yeah.
You little T-Rex, stay away from me.
It's almost like a DC versus John Jones type beat there.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly what it is. But I can get to his legs.
Well, once you touch him, I'm already down. Let's be honest.
I fell over.
Fell over again. So anyway, though, moving on, we're moving on over to UFC 311,
first pay-per-view of the year.
Woo!
And on that main card, we have, see here, Holland and Riddler.
The Riddler.
I did say Riddler, didn't I? I was going to butcher it, and it was the easiest one I butchered.
That's a dope crossover, dude. I can't wait.
Renier de Ritter, but we're going to call him RDR. So a lot of fans probably haven't heard of this guy, but he was a double champ in one. So he had their middleweight and light heavyweight championship, which for them, middleweight is 205 and light heavyweight is 225. So he's a big dude to be cutting down to 85. That's That's no joke.
Is this his first fight here?
It is not. So he fought Gerald Mearshart, which like gatekeeper type character basically now. I think that's pretty straightforward for what most fans see GM3 as anymore. Just good test, passed obviously, which is good. Ended up putting away GM3. He only has 2 losses, brings an 18-2 record to the cage here tonight. He actually submitted Gerald Mearshart, so that's kind of a good thing in and of itself because Gerald Mearshart just finishes fights with submissions. But RDR, like I said, 18-2. His only 2 losses are to the same guy, actually. And I'm not even gonna try there. Some dude that it looks like he's from Russia. Yep. All right. Yeah, there's no chance there. But
don't blame you.
yeah, the UFC signed him over from 1. Obviously, that's one of the better promotions outside of the UFC. Drake, I gotta go with you, and I'll explain why. So everybody kind of knows who Kevin Holland is now. I would say a lot of the more into it fans probably have Kevin Holland on their top 10 for favorite fighters. I first heard of Kevin Holland in 2020. This dude won 5 fights in 7 months.
That's
Fought in May. Yeah.
He was taking all kinds of fights. He just wanted to fight. He was active.
Yeah. Including a win over now welterweight contender Joaquin Buckley, a knockout win.
Mm-hmm.
So he has a lot of great guys on his resume, just looking up and down. You got Hamzat Chimaev, like with the Tony Ferguson jumble up with Hamzat missing weight. Nate Diaz ended up fighting Tony. Yeah. I heard they gave him like $800,000 to take that fight on 1 day's notice. That's crazy.
That is ridiculous.
Pay.
Yeah. Yeah. I ended up jumping into a pond because he decided to have a kickboxing fight with Wonder Boy in December. That was cool. Shout out Kevin. Took Jack Della Maddalena, 3-name Jack, to a split decision. Personally, I thought he won that fight. That was Grasso versus Shevchenko too, so that was a free show on ESPN, which was awesome. He's been in there with obviously Michael Venom Page, Michael Chiesa, former The Ultimate Fighter winner, Marvin Vittori, Derek Brunson, another Strikeforce champion who he knocked out from his back, Jacare Souza, and his only title fight on the regional scene was in a square cage against Jeff Neal.
Heck yeah. Square
cage against Jeff Neal. So he has about as good of a resume as you could ask for. He's gonna get in there and fight. He said multiple times, if you're complaining about fighter pay, it's because you're not fighting enough. All right, that's a fair take on that in my mind. Kevin Holland is very well rounded. He has 12 knockouts and 9 submissions of his 26 wins. 26-12, obviously had his ups and downs, but that's going to happen when you get in there and fight a lot, right? Like not to throw him under the bus, but realistically, guys who are competing for the title aren't fighting once every 4 months for the most part.
He also wasn't like trying to go for the title for the longest time. He just wanted to get money, fight because he loved it, and perform for the fans. And then he started really taking it serious in this past like year and a half or so.
Yeah,
he was like, you know what? I want to try to go for that championship.
So for those of you who don't know, I didn't have this pulled up, but it just kind of crossed my mind. You can see in Tapology their disclosed earnings. His is only $475,000, but I bet he's probably made $3 million fighting in the UFC because he has performance bonuses and stuff too.
That's true.
Yeah.
Like he's not in there fighting boring fights. Like example, you moron, he had a kickboxing fight with Wonder Boy. Yeah, that was fun. Like, to be completely honest with you, that was one of my favorite. I have actually that poster over there.
Oh,
I bought the poster after I jumped into the pond. So yeah, that's one of my favorite fights of all time. So I realistically, like Drake in here has been saying, DeRitter struggled a little bit against GM3. And like I said, GM3 is a solid fighter. He's not a championship fighter. With that being said, neither is Kevin Holland. But he does have that. He does have that UFC experience, and like we saw last weekend with Christian Rodriguez, that matters. Like going against high-level guys in the big show with the bright lights, that matters. It does. No matter what anybody says, experience against top competition matters. That's what I love about MMA is there's nobody out here doing what they do in boxing. Nobody's can crushing. Nobody's filling their record with a bunch of guys who have like half a leg and then getting a quote-unquote world title fight. That's not happening.
You can't do that in MMA.
No, you're never going to get anywhere. So give me Kevin Holland. I'm going to say that he stops him with a knockout in round 2.
Well, if you're looking at the betting odds for this thing, it's dead even.
Yeah.
-10, -10. So you're gonna put who are you putting it on again?
I'm rocking with Kevin Holland.
Kevin Holland.
Cheering for Kevin Holland is like, I don't know. It's like going back to your ex-girlfriend. It's so wrong, but it feels so good. Like, you know what I mean?
Yep.
No idea what you're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah, sure, Kev. Anyway. But yeah, give me Kevin Holland, second round knockout.
Second round knockout. Okay. Well, the next we've got Darush and Moicano.
Money Moicano.
Me and names don't mix.
Amen. Me too.
So Rayush he's a stand-up striker, but he's also a guy that is not afraid to get down on the ground though either. But Moicano, on the other hand, he loves the ground. I mean, he's got 20 wins and 10 of those are by submission. So, and he's got 2 knockouts, and then everything else, then he's got 8 decisions. So he is normally, I mean, it's either a toss up if he's going to finish him or if it's going to go all the way. And then looking at Darush, he's got 22 fights. He's 22-6-1. He's got 8 subs, 4 KOs, TKOs, and he's got 9 decisions. So he's mostly going to finish his guys. He's more than 50% of finishing, any of his opponents. Unfortunately, though, he's on a 2-fight lose streak, while Moicano, he's on a 4-fight win streak. He's gotten them all: a decision, a sub, and a knockout. He's got all 3 of those in that 4-fight span. So if I'm being honest, looking at these two and how they're fighting, even if it goes a distance, just because I see, I know Darush here, he's had a kind of a bad luck. He's been knocked out the last 2 times. But any time I feel like Moicano deals with someone who can kind of stop the takedown, he can't really do anything. Kind of like what would happen with him with Dos Anjos when he fought him. That was his last loss. Someone who could kind of wouldn't let him get the takedown and dominated him kind of on the ground. So I don't know if he'll be able to dominate him on the ground, but I do feel, looking at the betting odds for that fight, Darush is plus 145. So, I was going to take him anyway, is how I was going to take that fight. So.
Yeah, he. I think I would go with him. His last 2 fights he lost by TKO, but he also fought Charles Oliveira, former lightweight champion, and then you got Tsarukyan.
He was putting him on. He was putting it on him though too before he got knocked out.
Yeah. He's not fighting he's not getting knocked out on the prelims. He's fighting the best guys in the world. And he didn't fight in 2024. So that was realistically probably good for him to heal up a little bit. Getting knocked out twice in a year is not
bad brain damage right there.
Yeah, that's not great. So yeah, plus money on Beneil. I think that's probably the way to go.
Yeah.
I think so too.
That's kind of my thoughts on it as well. And then we've got next up. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name. I'm not.
I believe. I believe,
something,
Zach.
something,
I believe.
and Jamal Hill. I got that one. I got Jamal Hill.
Jamal Hill. There you go. We got Jamal. Yuri.
Yeah.
I don't know how to say Yuri's last name. Was it It's Yuri, right? Like, we all know who
Yuri.
he is. He's the Viking dude, with the awesome haircut. You know him, okay? He's chaos personified. He's got that. You talked earlier about people throwing when they're in their last efforts there, when they're on the verge of being knocked out, how they might come at you from any and all angles. That's just Yuri all day long, right?
Yeah.
That's just, he's going to apply the pressure. He's going to come at you from different angles. Whereas Jamal Hill, right, just a little more technical, and another a good striker. These guys both have an unfortunate loss to Pereira in their rear view. It's kind of I've seen people promote this as a must-win for both fighters as far as where they were at one point in time. We all wanted this fight so badly, right? And then injuries, things didn't happen. Again, they've both taken their big losses now, but we have it now, and it does feel like it could go either way. The one thing I will say is I would bet that this one doesn't go to a decision, right? I would be very confident that we're not. No one's. We don't have to ask the judges about this one. But with Hill, right now, guys, I'm leaning Yuri, and that's because Hill's coming off of an Achilles injury as well, and at 100%, I would still be leaning Yuri. But if Hill is not able, like physically, if he's not able to move around like he has been in the past, he's not going to have a chance against what Yuri's going to do to him. So I think, what did that Tyler say? Yuri in round 1. I don't hate that. I'm going Yuri, and round 1, sure, sounds good. Round 2 works for me too, but I think it's Yuri for this one, guys.
Anybody who's voluntarily willing to lock themselves in a dark room for 3 days with no food and water.
Yes.
How do you pick against that?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
He's like, he kind of reminds me like the extremes that he does is kind of like a David Goggins, but like,
yeah, that's a really good comparison. Actually, that makes a ton of sense. But yes, Drake, you're not
crazy.
No, Yuri fights with his hands down. There's positives and negatives to that. Bobby Green does it too, and he could throw all kinds of weird punches, and that's kind of what Yuri does too. But I'm just gonna believe it won't happen because I don't like Jamal Hill.
I can't stand Jamal Hill. I can't root for him. I'm always gonna vote against him. Yeah, y'all lost so much respect for him after that Pereira fight, and then he just started like, I don't know if he just got something screw loose in his head from getting knocked out, but
yeah,
he's
coming probably destroyed a part of his brain.
He was coming at Alex like
the ref stopped it. No, dude, you literally reached out for a glove tap after he pushed him off. You were fine. You were fine. Quit whining.
Yeah, I think and that's another part of it. I'd be lying if I didn't say part of me just really wants Yuri to win this one. I don't know too many Jamal Hill fans out there. I'm sure you're out there. Like and subscribe. Tell us all about your boy in the comments. We'd love to hear it.
Oh man, can't stand him.
Well, Yuri does have the odds plus 105. Jamal Hill negative 125.
I can see it.
I see that too.
Yuri gets hit too much. That is the dig. That is the dig. And like I said, you can't prepare for Yuri. Like, you know what I mean? Nobody's gonna come in there and do the stuff that dude does.
Yeah, no.
Like, you can't get a training partner that's gonna do that. But like Drake said in the comments, Jamal only needs one. As much as I don't like the guy, he does only need one.
He can put the lights out.
Yeah.
It's true.
This has all kinds of writing on it for fight of the night, in my opinion, by the way. Just throwing that out there.
I agree.
Even with 2 belts still on that card.
And I love that I'm getting Yuri for plus money, by the way.
Yuri for plus money outside of when he's fighting Alex Pereira is like one of the smartest things you can do.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Well, then we've got
Rob versus Umar Nurmagomedov. If you've heard that name rings a bell, obviously it's them freaking Dagestanis. They are out to take over the world in MMA. Umar 18-0. I saw some fun fact, like I don't quote me on exactly what the numbers are, but like between like Umar and Islam and Habib, like their whole group that's fight, they only have like 4 losses altogether.
Yeah.
And like 60 something wins. It's ridiculous. Their training is crazy. They make such hard sacrifices and just like they're so professional with it when it comes to this. Like they live, breathe, and eat MMA. So you can't knock them.
I love it.
Yeah. Then you got Merab, who is 18-4. He came in the UFC with 2 losses. One against Frankie, I don't know how to say, Sains. And then that was a split decision loss. And then he lost by submission to Ricky Simon back in 2017 and 2018. And then it just went on a tear. And he's no slouch. In the past, like 4 fights, he's fought Sean O'Malley for the belt, which is how he got the belt. He fought Henry Cejudo, beat Henry, beat
Dumped
Peter
him
Yan.
on his head, too. Nobody talks about that.
Yeah.
Picked him up, picked up an Olympic-level wrestler and dumped him. Like, awesome.
I was saying having better wrestling, obviously, than Henry Cejudo, which is crazy to think about. Former 2-division champ, former Olympic champ. That's why they call him Triple C. Like, worked him. Then he worked Peter Yan, who at the time was supposed to be on this crazy tear, and beat former champ Jose Aldo. Like, he's got some good resume. And if you watched the interviews, he was getting kind of emotional, which I wasn't expecting, which begs, like, is he a little bit scared? But he was basically saying that Umar hasn't fought anybody. He doesn't deserve this title shot. But because if you look, he's really, in my opinion, for the UFC, he's got Corey Sandhagen and Begzat. I don't know how to say his name. Probably the 2
his only real win is
biggest
Corey
names
Sandhagen.
that he's fought.
That Corey Sandhagen is definitely his crown jewel.
Yeah, it's Corey Sandhagen's his crown jewel for sure.
Like, not to dig the guy, but like, guys, I couldn't name a single other person that he's fought in the UFC. Like,
nope.
I've never heard of these dudes.
So I kind of agree with Merab on the fact that Umar hasn't really fought that high level competition, but obviously he comes from a MMA pedigree family. Like, he's got the skills. You see it in his fighting. Eager to see how he does against Merab, the freaking machine, because his tank is unbelievable. He never stops. To put it in perspective, like his takedown average is 6 takedowns. So, and then if you compare that, his takedown actually is 36%. So if he's getting 6 takedowns on average, only averaging 36%, how many takedowns is he like attempting per freaking fight? It's like, to have a tank to do that, especially for 5 rounds, is insane. Like, he doesn't get tired.
He shot 49 takedowns on Petr Yan.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And doesn't get tired.
No.
He does not get tired.
49.
That's crazy.
I've gone fights without doing a single one.
I know.
You probably won multiple fights without doing a single one.
Yeah, I have.
What will be interesting, though, too, is Umar, though. He averages about 4 takedowns a fight, and then his actually is 50%, but his takedown defense is 100%. He's never been taken down. So it'll be interesting to see if Rob can do what he did with Henry Cejudo and win that wrestling battle. Because I feel Umar has a really good kicks. If you ever watched, he's got a great high kick. He's got this great like front head teep kick, and he's got some good stand up. So it's going to be interesting in where this ends up. Is it going to be a wrestling battle? Is it going to be Nolan and Void, and then they're just going to stand up and fight? But I was leaning to a Merab until I watched that interview, to be honest. And then it kind of, I've never seen him get like that kind of emotional. And so I don't know if Umar's in his head just because of his name pedigree and he's getting the fight for the championship. So,
well, Vegas feels the same way as you do because they have Umar favored -300.
Yeah, I think that's just because of his last name. It's that big.
That's legit.
I mean, Marb is what, plus 240?
Yeah.
And he's the champ.
Yeah.
He's the champ.
It's
how many times, realistically, I would love to know this. I don't know if there's a way to track it. How many times do we realistically think that a champ has went into a fight as an underdog? Especially like that. Like
very rarely.
If you want to give,
I don't think I've ever seen like that big of a deficit for a champ.
Yeah, like a Yuri plus 105. Yeah, sure, I'll buy that. If it's like against some, like if it's like a former kickboxer up against a wrestler, like yeah, sure, I'll get
this
that.
is his first title defense too, right?
Yeah, he fought like 3 months ago
against Sean O'Malley, right?
Yeah,
yes,
he is. If I'm Merab, I am super irritated with the UFC, and I say this without knowing if Merab wanted to fight or not, but this fight is on Umar's timeline. For those of you who might not know, you're going to be seeing a lot of Russian, Middle Eastern guys fighting in the next couple weeks because Ramadan is next month. So they don't want guys out there doing their camps or whatever. Guys just aren't going to take fights. Mm-hmm. So from like February to like probably around April, you're not going to see very many of them compete. And the UFC wanted Umar to compete early. So this is Umar's timeline. This is not Merab's timeline. If I'm Merab, I'm like you said, Wade, I'm a little worked up. Yeah. It's not my timeline. I'm the champ.
Yeah.
You do what I say. You
show no respect to him as a champ. It might have been different if he defended a couple of titles already, but
right.
It's just, you're a new title guy. We don't care. We think this is a new up and comer. We're going to throw him at you.
And this guy, he's fought 12 times. He's on a 12-fight win streak. Like, what? People, and Merab's funny. Like, it's not like he's out there, like, not, like, some guys are just like, I just care about fighting. That's all I want to do. I get it. That's your job. But how you build that following is by, like, being funny in interviews, doing cool stuff outside of the octagon. Merab does that.
Yeah, I like Merab. That's who I'm shooting for to win. He's been through it. The UFC has really just made him fight for that championship. I think that's why he got so emotional, because he had to fight high-level competition. He was on a 10-fight win streak just to get that championship belt.
Again.
And they just can't wait to get it off of him.
Yeah.
And that points to what Tyler was saying earlier. He thinks it'll go to decision and that they will try their best to not give it to Merab in that decision. And while I won't necessarily, I don't know about that part, right? But I will say it certainly seems that the UFC would have no problem with that belt changing hands. And as Clayton just mentioned, they're doing it on the challengers timeline. Doesn't seem like they think that Merab can draw money, because let's be honest, that again, to pull a name from the ancient history, they're not doing this to Conor. Right? Yeah. Like, Conor's not taking a fight on a challenger's time. It's pretty wild. So I would feel disrespected too. And that's why I would be putting my money on Merab, and that's who I'll be rooting for. Because fuck the man, dude.
Yeah.
And then real quick, we'll go over the main event of the evening, a rematch. And how do you guys think this will go? Do you think that this will be like the last fight and be a grappling match through five rounds, right? It'd be 5 rounds of nothing but good high level grappling, because that's what it was last time. It was high level grappling. It was entertaining grappling. Most people who probably weren't a fan of grappling were somewhat interested in this fight because it was constant action. It wasn't your normal ground attack where someone just gets on top, smothers them, beats them up, and just sits there and throws hands at them. No, there was a lot of transitions. People getting up, people getting taken down again, people getting up, people going down, reversals. It was beautiful. We're going to see more of that, or do we think someone's going to take another approach and try to stand up and keep it off the ground this time?
I think for Islam, he's going to do what he always done. He's going to go in there. He's going to throw a little stand up, wait for his opportunity, get that takedown, and go for that submission. I think that he does that in the third round. Wins by submission.
Even just looking at their pedigrees, like if you look at Arman Tsarukyan's Tapology versus Islam's Tapology, Arman Tsarukyan lost his UFC debut to Islam, obviously. We already talked about that. He's fought quality competition since then. A couple guys, Matt Frivola's always game. Has a loss to Matuz Gamrot. That's another guy who's an up-and-comer right now. Mm-hmm. Has a knockout win over Beneil Dariush. Had a really tight split decision over Charles Oliveira that I thought he lost.
Same. I thought he lost that too, but it was a close one.
With that being said, looking at Islam's pedigree, so since his loss to a dude named Adriano Martins, like, first and foremost, that dude's like definitely sitting in a bar somewhere like, yeah, man, knock that guy out.
That's his claim to fame.
Bro. But since then, that was the second fight in the UFC. Since then, he's won every single fight that he's seen. I think he's on a 13-fight win streak, maybe. He's fought Dustin Poirier, Volk twice, Charles Oliveira, Bobby Green, Dan Hooker, Thiago Moises, Drew Dober, Arman, obviously, Gleason Tebow. Like, just looking at his resume and his pedigree, it's hard to pick against a guy like that.
Yeah,
it really is. It's hard to pick against a guy who is getting trained by one of the best fighters ever, comes from an excellent camp, and that's not a dig on Arman. That's just a simple fact.
Yeah.
And B, a guy with championship experience. Arman doesn't have that.
Yeah,
he doesn't have it. And if Islam wins this fight, he will break Khabib's record for most title defenses with 4. So, that being said, give me Islam. I'm going Islam. We're going to go with a 4th round. We'll go with a 4th round TKO. Give me the Islam KO.
Well, looking at the good old, betting odds for this, Arman is plus 280, while Islam is minus 380. So Vegas definitely thinks Islam is going to win this and win this one big. Now, if we're going to look a little bit more deep into it, you've got, if the fight goes the distance, negative 190 for yes and plus 145. Heck, you've got KO. You've got no one thinks it's going to really be that. It's plus 700, plus 800 in submission. Plus 400 Islam. I'm reading Islam's first, and plus 2,500 for
You gotta love MMA math right there. That comment.
Right there. That's the money line right there that you really want. That's what if you want to beat all odds right there. There you
guys, go, MMA math doesn't work. Yeah. I promise. I've spent too much free time trying to figure it out. Example: Max Holloway versus Justin Gaethje. Well, he beat him, and he beat Dustin Poirier, who beat Max Holloway twice. So yeah, Justin Gaethje, guys. Like no, MMA math does not give a shit about our betting odds. No. I will definitely say that. Connor.
What's up, Connor? Good
win to end the year, bro. Tough fight against a tough guy. That was a good win.
Yes. And since you're showing up, I think it's a perfect opportunity to go into everyone's favorite minute. It is the wrestling minute. Kev, what has been going on in that neck of the woods?
Oh, when we last left our other grappling heroes, they were debuting on Netflix, right? We talked about how The Rock came out, once again ruined a year's worth of storytelling in about 5 minutes because he just can't seem to figure out that the last group of people alive that actually still like him for who he is, he just can't seem to make them happy. First, he pissed off the whole DC extended universe. Then he's pissing in water bottles and making Ryan Reynolds and other actors upset. Now he's pissing off the wrestling fans. Dude, you need to chill before you quit selling hair gel while you're a bald man, and like just remember how to cut a promo. And when the audience likes you as a heel, just stay a heel, man. Like that's how the only reason you're here is because of how phenomenal of a heel you were 30 years ago. You were the person everyone loved to hate. And somehow, some way, his ego can't get around it. He cannot accept that people want to boo him and that should be okay. So instead, he goes into business for himself because he can do that as a board member at TKO. And he can say, I know you guys have been building this story for the last year. I don't give a fuck. I'm a good guy now because I want people to cheer for me. And that's where we're at now.
He's been too used to that movie, the movie blockbuster hit. Everybody loves him. He wants to translate that into wrestling, but everybody knows he was a heel.
You mean how he's gotten his contract, how he can't lose a fight in a movie?
Oh yeah,
like
the Fast and Furious contract.
Yeah. So you know what I mean? If they're throwing punches, someone can't land more punches on them than he.
Yeah.
I'm like, really? Come on.
Him and Vin Diesel. That's a two-part. Like they both have it. Like The Rock can't punch me more than I can punch him.
That's why
we have to have our
heel.
heads shaved at the exact same time, so one of us doesn't have one extra hair than the other. It's wild what's going on between those two. But so far, the Netflix product has been all right. It hasn't been too bad. They had their second episode, which thankfully to some of us fans, Netflix was rumored to be a 3-hour program. Week 2 of Raw, 2.5 hours. So they got in, got out. Most WWE fans would tell you that despite all the talent on this roster, they just do not have enough going for them to tell you 6 hours worth of content every week. And then you got NXT on Tuesdays as well. So SmackDown got moved to a 3-hour program, probably to make nice with USA, who lost Raw, right? Now they're on Netflix. You had to make up for that somehow. But they just they hot-shotted that first Netflix episode as if it were a pay-per-view. They also, guys, have brought back the Saturday night's main event. Now, I know that Wade and Zach have some nostalgia for these things. Do you guys remember the Saturday night's main event? That is about as old as we are.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry about that. So they brought back Jesse Ventura for the first one. It was a wild success. We have one company over here, AEW, as much as I want them to be good. It's very fitting to talk about them on a day we talk about the PFL. Competition is good for business. It's good for the fans. It's good for the boys. It's good for the girls, right? You have opportunity to go make money somewhere else, and if this boss isn't treating you well, you can go over here and you can still pursue your passion, right? That being said, AEW sucks, and I wish it didn't suck. And here's the difference: AEW will have 2 world-class athletes pile drive each other on top of a metal set of stairs, and then they'll still kick out at 2. Meanwhile, what the WWE just did on their last episode of Saturday night's main event is they had the heel pile drive Cody Rhodes, the champion, and then they took him out on a stretcher, as if, oh man, these finishing moves, they actually hurt. You shouldn't be able to have 7 of them done to you and then kick out. I think when people complain about wrestling, when they call it fake, and it's that shit that they're talking about, where it's overly choreographed and a guy somehow kicks out after 2 Canadian destroyers. And it's like, well, what the hell, dude? How am I supposed to believe any of this if they can just kick out every time and then somehow they're going to lose on a roll up, just like, it's like, what the hell are we doing here, man? So the WWE's problem now is they have more than just the pay-per-views, and it feels like they're hot shotting a little bit because now you've got Saturday night's main event coming up, I think Saturday after next, and the Royal Rumble is the following weekend. So now we're getting to where there's a little too much. You've got, unlike in traditional combat sports where you can end up with a good title match even on short notice, and even still there's some pair. We talked about this before, right? The guys who do the interviews, the guys who play the game, get a bigger following. People are more invested in those fights. The WWE is out here. That's tenfold in wrestling, right? Because in the UFC, you have the fact that literally anything could happen. WWE at this point, we all know, we all know it's work, right? So you really can't afford. You need a build. You can't just be slapping title matches together. And so, in last night's Raw, or 2 nights ago on Raw, we had Jey Uso call out the champion Gunther. He's fighting him next Saturday. The Royal Rumble's the following Saturday. It's just kind of getting to be a little too much. I do want to read Connor's comment about AEW. What did he say? The only reason AEW is still standing is because Tony Khan has more money than he knows what to do with. Thank you. Yes, Connor, 100%. Shad Cod money. Ask Jaguars fans how the Khan family is at running business.
I'm sure they would love to tell you how they are running business. That's for sure.
Just because you can make good bumpers for European cars does not mean you should be running multiple sports programs and a wrestling company. But I agree with you, Connor. He is printing. He's got an infinite money glitch, and there's no getting rid of him. We are stuck with him for better or worse, and he's addicted to the late 90s, early 2000s WCW stuff that almost killed the business. It's wild, the stuff that he's nostalgic for. It's crazy. But to bring it to something that's a little more universal for even the more casual fans, we've got the Royal Rumble coming up in my beloved Indianapolis, Indiana, because next year it'll be actually in Riyadh. It'll be in Saudi Arabia next year. So there you go. Look out for Middle Eastern WrestleMania. That's coming soon, because if they'll sell the Royal Rumble overseas, WrestleMania is fucking next, boys. So get ready to not be able to go to any of those. But John Cena's retirement party has officially started. So John Cena will be in the Royal Rumble. CM Punk will be in the Royal Rumble.
Oh, your favorite.
Yep. Everybody's favorite on this program. Everybody's favorite. Charles Montgomery Punk. We've got, of course, Jey Uso. So rumors are Goldberg might be coming back for a retirement match. Because again, anytime someone says the words Saudi Arabia, Goldberg wakes up in a cold sweat. He's like, wait. I can jackhammer one more, brother. I got one more squash match in me. Okay. So anyway, John Cena's coming back. There are a lot of rumors that he might win the Rumble. This is his last year ever wrestling. He is tied with Ric Flair, who embarrasses himself more each and every day, with the most titles in wrestling at 16. So what do you think? I'm going to ask Wade first, because I know Wade at least has some memories of old John Cena. Would you tune back in for a John Cena title run? Do you think he should retire with the record, or should he do the time-old, the honored tradition, and just do the job to a bunch of young guys on his way out? What do you think, Wade?
I kind of feel like he's only going to come back if he gets the record. So,
yeah.
But I definitely would watch that, though.
Like, I'm here for it's so funny for all the years that fans booed John Cena, and it was like the surprise Cena wins, and like he was the most hated good guy in wrestling history, right? Like, you've never seen the face of the company be less over than when Cena was getting forced down everyone's throat. That now the fact that people are nostalgic for it just blows my mind. It's like, y'all couldn't wait to get rid of this man. And now
you hated him so much. Now it's like, oh yeah,
dude works with James Gunn twice. And now you're like, come on, Cena. We love Cena. We miss Cena.
Wow.
But yeah, what about you, Zach? Did you got any Cena nostalgia in you?
Well, I'm going to tune in, but I'm not going to be seeing anything. So, you know.
Well played.
So, you know, I'll be watching him and he'll get the title, because as Wade said, I don't think he's going to do this without running with it. Plus, I'd rather see him have it than old Ric Flair. Woo! Woo! You know, him and his alcoholism and all that good stuff that he has, because that man, woo. You heard some of the stories of him and drinking.
Yeah.
It's amazing he's still alive, and equally amazing, somehow I feel like I'm in a bit of deja vu, because I'm pretty sure we talked about Ric Flair's last match on this program before. Well, wouldn't you know it, the old bastard says he still wants to do one more, because we all enjoyed the last one so much.
Man.
Is he coming out with a cane? Is he coming out with...
Instead of stretching somebody off,
he's gonna be sit there. He's gonna be like that. So when he goes and says "woo," he can make sure that he doesn't fall over. Because when he goes and does his woo, he's gonna put too much energy and he's gonna fall backwards.
It's gonna be like Lee Corso last weekend. Did you guys see that?
Yeah.
That's how it will be.
He tried dancing as a leprechaun, man, and can't get those feet up.
Yeah. I'm with you there, Connor. Yep.
Yeah.
100%.
Like I've said before, I'm not the biggest pro wrestling guy, but when I was growing up, it was the John Cena show pretty much. Like John Cena, he's not as dated as Greg Maddox. Callback. Not as dated as Greg Maddox, but he's not as new as Roman Reigns. So John Cena was the first professional wrestler that I ever really remember from growing up.
Fair.
So that being said, why not? Let him go get the record. Flair being the pro wrestling GOAT and Cena being the WWE GOAT, that's a very solid take.
Yeah.
That makes all the sense in the world to me.
100%. And I agree with that. And Connor's spot on, because Flair essentially, with a few, he was in the WWE as an older guy, but basically everything he did was competing against the WWE. And then back then it was sort of, you had your Southern wrestling fans. That was the real wrestling, the stuff where they would actually blade, and they would wanted it to look real. And then the WWE, you had dudes dressed like tugboats, and you had Hulk Hogan dropping a leg on you. Like when I was 8 years old, the body slam leg drop was the tits. But it doesn't take long to be like, really? That's it? Like that took down Andre the Giant? You kidding me? You just hit him with the inside of his knee? Like what? Huh? Meanwhile, you got WCW, Ric Flair. They're doing scaffold matches. They're doing, cage matches, all this stuff. And so I agree with that too. While Flair had his time in WWE, you would want to count him as the GOATs for wrestling. Definitely on Mount Rushmore, despite how embarrassing he is for all wrestling fans and probably his own family at this point. So not all of us can age with grace. And I say that as somebody who probably won't age with much grace. So I feel you, Rick. Keep wearing your bedazzled vests and getting kicked out of pizza places in Florida. I don't begrudge you, man. It's your money. Spend it how you want. Just quit hawking so many shitty energy drinks and chicken wings, dude. Like you're poisoning people out here, Rick.
Ric Flair.
Wow.
So there we go, guys. I'm with you. Give me a John Cena title. I hope he doesn't take it from Cody Rhodes, but I'm just still a mark for the All-American Dream. Dusty Rhodes, baby, the son of a plumber. Cody Rhodes is the son of a plumber, and I don't want to see him lose that belt they took away from his daddy in the garden. So just let John Cena win the other one. That one's the one that looks like the old WCW title anyway. So anywho, John Cena, Royal Rumble. We'll definitely be talking about it, but we'll have a Saturday night's main event to talk about first. You know what? Actually, I got one last thing, guys. Pat McAfee has stolen someone's job. Corey Graves, one of my favorite color commentators in wrestling. Connor, I'd love to hear what you think about Corey. If I think he does a great job. Pat McAfee, clearly an entertaining person. There's a reason he's on college football. My take is about to be the opposite of how I feel about him on Saturday mornings. On Saturday mornings, get rid of Lee, put Pat in there, leave him there. He's doing a great job. When it comes to wrestling, he is very much still a trainee, and he's more annoying than he is anything else because he's just a loud, obnoxious dude. that can work on a pregame show. The job of a wrestling commentator isn't much different than our job, Clayton, right? Your job at the desk is to explain the action in the ring to the new fans at home. With wrestling, you've got the fiction behind it. So you've got some storylines. It's not just all X's and O's, but you can't be out there, by God, it's La Down High. Oh, by God, it's Roman Reigns. Oh, it's Roman Reigns.
Yeah, you have to. It's just. I'm trying to even think of a way to summarize it. Like, you know what I mean? It's not the same as, like you said, Kev. It's not the same as football. It's not. There's story. You have to build. Like, you can't just talk about what's going on out there. That's not gonna work. So I'm curious to see how he does. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, if they would, honestly, if they just turn Pat heel, that could work, because he's obnoxious enough. He's irritating everybody trying to be a good guy. And I agree with Connor. What Corey does is what Bobby Heenan used to do, what Jesse Ventura used to do and came back once. The heel commentator is gone in wrestling. And it used to be great because you'd have that one guy who would always align with the bad guys, and he would give their take on it, give their point of view. And it was fun. You know, there's a little back and forth there. And Corey Graves essentially went to Twitter and said, imagine being told, former wrestler, he said, imagine being told that your dream job, basically, you're not good enough. You can no longer compete in your dream. So you settle for something adjacent to your dream and you commit yourself to it and you get really fucking good at it. And then I'll add this next part. Then they punt you to the B show for some buffoon who has ESPN money just so you can draw in the people who already don't want to watch your program. You're just trying to draw in people who don't care. If they come for Pat McAfee, they're not staying for the wrestling, I don't think. But that's just me. Sometimes I think people get so concerned with bringing in a new customer that they don't value keeping the customer that they have. But any business professor would tell you that it's much more expensive to bring on the new person. So try to cater to those that, you know, dance with the one that brought you, as old Jim Ross might say, okay? Otherwise, you'll be running like a scalded dog with a case of the liver taint. And that is it. I punch out, boys. Wrestling Minute is over.
Nice. Hold on. Connor just said something.
Right, exactly. It's you can't, you got to know the name. Listen, I'm practicing. I may very well be calling wrestling soon in my own time. You know what I'm doing? I'm going in the WW2K creator mode and going through all the moves. So that way I can remember. And I just know what most of them are called anyway. But I got to make sure. You know why? Because that's going to be my job soon. And I'm going to do it right. You can't just say, oh, God, yeet. I'm just going to say yeet. And I'm going to do this. And I don't know, man. I'm not taking anything away from his other ventures. The dude, clearly there's a reason he made as much money to do his podcast on ESPN. They got a whole second broadcast. Honestly, I think ESPN's trying to justify the money that they've paid him, but that's a conversation for another day. But Corey Graves is great. I hope he gets another chance. And I will just say Jim Ross, Michael Cole, even Jerry Lawler, they've all been fired. They've all been demoted. So Corey will be back at some point, and he should be the lead color commentator. And shout out to Joe Tessitore, who's been fucking killing it since he brought on. A lot of people didn't think he'd have the chops for wrestling. I was one of them. He's been really good. Tip of the cap, Joe. Sorry, boys. The Wrestling Minute turned into the wrestling half hour. I'm so sorry.
Oh, it's all good.
But I'm kind of not, but I'm sorry.
Kev, tell them where they can find you.
Well, here in about 11 minutes, you can find me over on the Dweeb talking Star Wars on Han Shot First. We are doing our full series review on Skeleton Crew since the finale wrapped yesterday. Also on Bite Size Sports, as you can see right here. Come check us out. And I've got a bunch of other shows. So just follow me on Twitter at @KevNevick_ or follow me on Facebook. And that way you'll be up to date with all the crazy stuff I'm getting into. What about you, Zach?
Well, you can find me and anything that we do, Carnage Media, on our Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Yeah, we got one of those. I think we also got an X. You can find us on all of those, Carnage Media PPV. And here soon, though, either next week when you see me, I'm either going to be very, very happy or Wade's going to be very, very happy because Notre Dame OSU national title game is Monday. And
That's also your birthday.
It's also my birthday.
A lot riding on this, gang.
So there's a lot going on for that. But, yeah, no, go Irish.
And I will not be watching that game with either of you because the last time the three of us were in the same room for that, Notre Dame forgot how many players were supposed to be on the field. So I'll be staying as far away from the two of you as possible on Monday.
Yeah, I'm not watching it with him. The last time I watched a national championship with him, they got the brakes beat off. So, I don't want to do that again.
Hey, I'm just hoping OH takes the dub.
Oh?
OH.
Nope.
Shoot. I don't mean for you to have a horrible birthday, but go out.
It's gonna be a fantastic birthday. First of all, they made the national championship. I'm happy. I am more than happy. So
it sounds like the AD. He sounds like he's getting that $30 million that he doesn't have to share with anybody.
Yeah. Hey. Well, you let me know if you want to talk some Notre Dame football later. So,
yeah,
I might have time this weekend. Check Bite Size Sports. Check it out.
Yep.
All right. About you, Wade?
You can find me obviously here at Carnage Unleashed Wednesdays at 7:30 with these lovely guys, and as well follow our pages at Carnage Media PPV, YouTube, Twitter. I don't call it X, Instagram, Facebook. That way you can find out what our next shows are going to be because we'll be getting into the swing of things here soon and putting on some shows for you.
Oh yeah, we've got one of our own shows too, Carnage Fight Series. We are doing an MMA show March 22nd in Ottawa, Ohio. It'll be a pro-am. So things to look forward to. Plus, we've got shows coming up way before that as well.
Yep. And then I think Clayton has some technical difficulties, but you can help him out and watch him over at Hot Takes. His podcast. Yeah, Hot Take Sports at his podcast. And there he is. He's back. Hold on.
There we go. We back.
He can at least say goodbye.
Yep. Sorry about that, everybody. But go follow me, Instagram, Twitter at cscalina12. Follow my podcast at Hot Take Sports 16. Love you guys. Thank you very much for tuning in.
Adios.